Thanks for staying with us. A man who went on a rant against the Prime Minister and the Hindu faith had to be warded at hospital under police guard. Johan Hari, an active supporter of the 19 Bullets 19 protest campaign, was admitted to the Port of Spain General Hospital last week after developing undisclosed medical issues after being arrested on a preventive detention order. Earlier in the week, Hari had posted to social media indicating that police were searching for him due to the comments he had made.
Oh my gosh, and they're trying to make sure they grab me before it is I get home to the march on Piccadilly Street. Because if it is they had a brain, they would have just wait until it is I reach down in the march and pick me up in the march. You understand where I'm coming from? But they don't want me in the march. They don't want me in the march. That is why it is they decided that they go in my girl this morning to try to lock me up. But I'm
Meantime, one woman was arrested as a handful of persons were not allowed to assemble by police when they turned up for a peace walk last week. It was supposed to be a walk for peace. Instead, it turned into a quick to and fro for a handful of East Port of Spain and environs residents who had heeded the call to gather on Piccadilly Street to march in support of unity and an end to gun violence.
As police officers, welcome the initiative for peace amongst all factions. It is something that we are supportive of. However, as I said, there are ways to go about getting approval to do what you want to do. And you will find that if they had applied and it approved, that a lot of police would have been out here ensuring that everything goes off in a peaceful and democratic manner. But because all the persons who are advised about the correct way to go about doing it, and that was not done, then we have to come out to ensure the safety and security of everyone in Trinidad and Tobago. And that is the reason for the strength. So who have an opinion that is an overkill, well, they're entitled to their opinion. But we are doing our work.
With a few persons still coming out, however, a directive to disperse quickly turned into a physical altercation between officers and one woman, resulting in her arrest.
I text you one time.
Unfortunate is how social and political activist Fuad Abu Bakr sees the premature conclusion of the event.
And as I saw young people coming from St. Paul Street, coming up, and I saw people coming across some Nelson Street and other places as well to meet together. That is the spirit of what this effort is supposed to be about. People in our capital who traditionally have had community conflicts, if you want to call it that, breaking those barriers and even coming closer together.
He laments that the police opted to shut down the event, calling it a missed opportunity.
I am someone who has always advocated for police reform and for us to just lift our standards of service in general. A lot of issues in our society can be diffused without force. It is counterproductive sometimes to be so heavy and so forceful with your people. We don't fight fire with fire.
Meantime, a member of Peace Foundation TT explains that the walk was conceptualized following the two fatal shootings which claimed the lives of young, innocent children.
The two incidents that occurred is with the children who passed away, right? And, since the different community, see that what was going on, they decide to come together for betterment for the different communities and to stop all the violence and stuff. It have a lot of sharpness what's going on, with the different numbers and stuff, and the different numbers, they decide to come together, for betterment, for unite, for unity. That's what back the place at peace.
The organizers had hoped the event would have drawn large crowds. However, they said the heavy police and army presence was a major deterrent.
Well, to tell you the honest truth, it have a lot of officers right now. And what they're saying is that, it's still under SOE, and they could get whole. So I feel it's just how the officers and them is around, that people ain't coming around as yet.
Meantime, the People's National Movement said it is prepared to challenge any extension of the SOE in the courts. Party officials indicated that a legal team has already been assembled.
Chairman of the PNM and MP for Aruca Lopino, Marvin Gonzalez, made the announcement on Wednesday night during a candlelight vigil in the Kwesi in San Juan.
Tonight, we wish to serve notice to the government that we have already assembled our team of attorneys who will be prepared to go to the court and file a constitutional motion to bring an end to this unlawful and unconstitutional state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago.
The statement is happening against the backdrop of a week of protest action pertaining to the charges laid against Kaya Seeley for the Joshua Samaru killing, which saw the arrests of 3 protesters, and a walk for peace on Wednesday where a woman was also arrested. Restrictions on places of protest due to the SOE has been a talking point of the government, but some view it as a curtailing of rights and a silencing of their voices and democratic freedom. Opposition Senator Sanjeev Budu challenges the purpose of the SOE, saying that murders, including that of children, continue across the country and even in broad daylight.
But they are saying to us that crime is down. The only restrictions, true restrictions, that this SOE has introduced are restrictions on the activities and lives of us law-abiding citizens. Don't speak, don't protest. If you protest, don't protest in certain places.
On another note, Budu questions why the government waited for maxi taxis across the country to go on strike instead of meeting with them to avert the strike. His conclusion is political experimentation in a bid to distract and control.
This government is experimenting on us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This government has come up with the idea that a starving man does not fight for freedom. A starving man fights for bread. A starving man does not fight for democracy. A starving man fights to feed his family. And that, my ladies and gentlemen, is what tyrants do.
Meanwhile, Gonzalez says the government is in for a fight.
We will march on the bus routes. We will march on the highways. We will march in the byways. We will go to every community and we will prosecute you. We are not afraid of you because power belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
And members of the Joint Trade Union Movement called on the government to reconsider the implementation of the recently established no protest zones, citing suppression of civil rights and freedoms.
Strong, our union makes us strong. For our union makes us strong.
So you are tying our hands behind our backs. We were planning, and it was well known to the government. If they did not address healthcare workers in this mid-year budget review, we were already going to head to the parliament, to the seat of democracy. And ironically, the very seat has blocked us from coming to them. The very seat of democracy. If we look at the 15 identified zones, as Comrade Ash would have indicated earlier, and you are to do a 500-meter separation from each zone,
It means that Port of Spain is a no protest, no demonstration, no picket zone. And we are saying as trade unionists, protest, march, demonstration, peaceful picket, all these actions which are peaceful are acts that are normally done as part of our tool and trade.
We are in a state of emergency, so trade unions have to be very careful. We're in very precarious times. We're in times where if it is that you say something that offends a leader, you could find yourself the next day behind bars, you know. You ain't getting an opportunity to answer any questions. Your family crying, snotting their nose, all kind of thing. But the reality is this. You have to do what you have to do. You know why we have to do it? To preserve democracy in Trinidad and Tobago.
And this is a clear message to the government of the day. We didn't vote for this. Citizens didn't vote for this. Trade unions, we don't deserve this. Dissent is not disloyalty. Constructive criticism is not criminality. And accountability is not above the rule of law. Democracy is not organized or is not negotiated. This is ours and this is our right. And what we are saying as the progressive trade union movement to the government, a word to the wise is sufficient. Thank you.
This is the past 7 days on 6. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Scores of commuters across the country were left in the lurch last Monday as a majority of maxi taxi operators stayed true to their word and failed to come out to work that morning. From Curepe to Chaguanas, Sandy Grande to Port of Spain, it was pain for early morning commuters who were faced with empty maxi stands at peak period.
Failure this morning, failure problems. Yeah, we need to go to work on these problems.
A few hours later, the situation was much the same. Meantime, things remain very slow here in Arima. It's just about 1 p.m. and I'm on the corner of Broadway and St. Joseph Streets, where usually there would be a long line of maxis here awaiting the end of school. But as you can see, not a single maxi in sight.
But we still later one to maxi working on main road, so let's see. But the bus route, Russia.
So you all don't have any like taxi service?
No, we don't.
No alternatives whatsoever?
No.
So you're prepared to wait how long here? So you have a baby strapped to you, you have an umbrella, you have a bag. How long are you prepared to wait?
As long as I have a vehicle, I don't mind waiting.
In a 30-minute period, roughly 3 maxis came by the Arima stand. In Curepe, however, the situation was quite the opposite. So I'm here at the Curepe to Chaguanas maxi taxi stand, and despite the planned strike action by maxi taxi operators, as you can see, there are several green band maxi taxis behind me, and they are in fact plying the route. TV6 News attempted to speak with drivers, but they declined to comment. However, one Kelly to St. Helena taxi driver who operates from Curepe Junction told TV6, while there was some reduction in the flow of passengers today, the impact was negligible.
Most people who came, they take maxi from either Arima, San Juan, or Tinapuna. But the flow is constant. It's a normal day right now.
However, the strike action was evident along the PBR in Curepe, which is usually thronging with maxi taxis. Still, there were a few drivers who decided to work the route. TV6 News also observed 3 buses in the space of about 20 minutes. We're seeing a PTSC bus here. This is at Curepe Junction. The bus just came down. The bus route heading west. Full to capacity. Completely full. Persons are standing. All of the seats are filled and the center aisle is completely filled at this time with passengers. So what we are seeing as the day progresses is that more and more maxi taxi operators are in fact coming out and servicing their respective routes. Meantime, PTSC tells TV6 News that it did in fact move to put contingency measures in place in anticipation of the planned strike action.
We added about at least 6 to 7 buses. We had a total this morning of roughly around 100 buses in the system working. That is all throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Again, the main concentration of persons that we see affected today was along the PBR. So we have been operating since 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning. Most of our services, regular services, are running out as per schedule. Over the weekend, we would have worked on a number of buses, ran through our buses and got some back into service to ensure that we had as much vehicles available as possible. Of course, we are limited by resources in managing the entire situation. But what we have been doing is redirecting resources where we have large pockets of persons, and I have been utilizing buses from other depots, particularly along the east-west corridor.
Well, TV6 News questioned why the measures which were taken today are not par for the course at the corporation. This was the general manager's response. Why wait until now?
Well, buses need to rest. They need to be checked. They need to be serviced in order to have reliability. So while we will do this in this emergency circumstance, it is not recommended to do this for an extended period of time.
Maxi taxi operators are calling for the government to give attention to the following: an increase in the highway speed limit for maxi taxis from 65 kilometers an hour to 80 kilometers an hour, a crackdown on illegal PH taxi operations, solutions to escalating crime affecting operators and passengers, and payment of outstanding monies owed to drivers for transporting school children, among other issues. The associations met with the Minister of Works late this evening. Sport is up next. Keep it here. In sport, the West Indies lost to Sri Lanka by 41 runs last week in the first ODI in Jamaica. We take a look back at how it all went down.
West Indies won the toss and put Sri Lanka into bat in the first one-day international at Sabina Park. After a catch was dropped off the first ball, the visitors finally lost their first wicket at 22, with Kamindu Mendes falling to Jaden Seals for 12. Then Pathum Nissanka and captain Kusal Mendes had a solid partnership of 136.
Easy pickings.
Mendes made 72 and Nissanka 79.
Entices him to come down the pitch, and it's just has enough.
Roston Chase was among the wickets, taking 2 for 47 from his 10 overs.
Fielder circles, settles, and takes the catch.
When Janet Lianage joined Charit Asalanka, the two put on a useful partnership of 64. Asalanka made 45, while Lianage scored an unbeaten 44.
It's high.
For the home side, Matthew Ford and Jaden Seals grabbed 2 scalps, but the Trinidadian was expensive. Sri Lanka eventually closed on what was a healthy 303 for 7 from their 50 overs. When the Caribbean men responded, John Campbell and Justin Graves were the ones to open the innings.
For 6.
The two made a rollicking start with a partnership worth 50 from 6.1 overs.
Ferociously.
But Campbell was run out for 17 and Graves went for 45, which made it 73 for 2 in the 10th over. Captain Shea Hope joined Casey Carty and they did some repair work with a partnership of 52. Carty was out for 27, while Hope's dismissal for 56 made it 167 for 5. Roston Chase and Gudakesh Moti then put on 47 runs.
Slapped.
Moti fell for 22, giving Mahesh Tikshana his second scalp.
Gone big, Moti. That's into the wind.
Then Dushmanta Chamira removed Chase for 33 and Alzari Joseph for a duck. The tail hung around a bit, with Shamar Joseph making an inconsequential 23 not out. Chamira was the pick of the bowlers with 4 scalps. Charit Asalanka took the last one as the Windies were all out for 262 in the final over and lost by 41 runs. The hosts must win the next 2 to clinch the series. Vinod Nawani, TV6 Sport.
And that's a wrap on the past 7 days on 6. I am Renessa Cutting. If you didn't catch this segment in its entirety, you can find it on our website, www.tv6tnt.com, and you can find all these stories and more on the TV6 mobile app. Thanks for choosing TV6, and do have a great evening. Good evening and welcome to the past 7 days on 6. I am Renessa Cutting. Here's what made the news this past week. Government said it will see close to $3 billion in the upcoming mid-year budget review. One man was arrested for comments made about the Prime Minister and Hinduism. And the planned 3-day maxi-taxi strike came to a premature halt. As per usual, if it was happening, it was on 6. Let's get right into it. $2.93 billion. That's how much government is seeking in supplementary allocation for the mid-year review of the budget in the Parliament. And the vast majority of that supplementation is for paying increases in public sector salaries. Here's more.
That supplementary bill that will be coming is to ask for more money, $2.93 billion in supplementation to meet the bills of Trinidad and Tobago in this fiscal year 25-26.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessa's announcement in the House of Representatives as the nation had been waiting on any details about the mid-year review of the government's budget by the Parliament.
Out of that $2.93 billion that we are asking for, $2.83 billion is recurrent, and it will apply to the new wages and salaries that we have been paying. I already told you over 60,000 persons are getting increased salaries, and so we have to find the money. For these increased salaries.
The Prime Minister provided those details as she made reference to collective agreements settled between the Chief Personnel Officer and the trade unions in the public sector, as well as the CPO and the Defence Force.
They are, Mr. Speaker, PSA, about 18,000 workers. NUGFW, 20,000 workers. Teachers, 15,000 workers. TT Defence Force, 6,000. Amalgamated Contractors Union, I think, amalgamated 1,300 workers. Contractors Workers Union, 900. We got 850. Under my government, the UNC government, I repeat, today, 62,050 workers about are receiving higher salaries.
The Prime Minister made her announcements as she delivered a statement at the beginning of the second session of the 13th Parliament.
Next week, we will return to this House to present the mid-year review and supplementary appropriation. So this House will return, Mr. Speaker, subject to the standing orders. We will return next Wednesday when the Finance Bill 2026 will be debated. That bill is to give effect to measures that were announced in the 2025-26 budget.
Prime Minister Persad-Bissessa then said that thereafter, the Parliament's Standing Finance Committee will be convened next Friday.
So Wednesday first for the Finance Bill, and that will be convened at about 10:30 a.m. And then on Friday for the Standing Finance Committee at 1:30 p.m. and thereafter in the following week for debate on the supplementary appropriation bill, variation and supplementation.
Leader of the House, Barry Padurath, the Minister of Public Utilities, later spoke on the matter.
Mr. Speaker, for the avoidance of doubt and for clarity, I will just refer to the dates once more. Wednesday, 10th June, at 10:30 a.m., the House will sit to pursue the Finance Bill and other matters. On Friday, June 12th at 1:30 p.m., the Standing Finance Committee of the Parliament will meet. And on Monday, June 15th at 10:30 a.m., the mid-year review will be conducted.
In a statement, the Finance Ministry said the 2026 Finance Bill continues to address a number of significant areas of government policy, including amendments to the landlord business surcharge. And the ministry said that additionally, in keeping with the government's fight against crime, the bill also seeks to strengthen criminal penalties across a wide cross-section of offences. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar also rolled out her government's parliamentary agenda, announcing higher age limits for ganja and alcohol use.
During her statement at the beginning of the second session of the 13th Parliament, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar first spoke about the first session, which began after last year's general election.
In the last session, in that 1 year, my government laid 33 bills, and we were able to have 28 of them passed and enacted into law. I think we achieved what was perhaps a record level of success in that agenda.
The Prime Minister then outlined her administration's agenda for the new session of Parliament.
In this new session, we plan to advance legislation for, amongst other things, a medical malpractice court, a no-fault compensation system, regulatory frameworks for cannabis and agricultural diversification.
That was not the only time the issue of cannabis was mentioned, as the Prime Minister spoke about key campaign promises and other legislative objectives of her administration.
Development of a parental responsibility framework to address school violence. Increases in the age limits for use of ganja, alcohol and gambling. The Victims' Rights Act. Chancellor for the Judiciary, amendments to the Firearms Act, legislation regarding gated communities, social media regulation for children under 12, local government reform of construction and building approvals, as I say earlier, amongst many other pieces of legislation.
They are also to include amendments to modernize the Education Act.
So as we begin this new session, Mr. Speaker, I want to assure the people of Trinidad and Tobago that I hear you, I see you, and I remain attuned to realities facing our nation every day.
And the Prime Minister appeared to respond to criticisms from the opposition and other critics who say her administration's management of the war on crime is only focused on the implementation of states of emergency.
When we assumed office, the nation had recorded more than 625 murders in the preceding year, the highest level in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. My government is doing what is necessary and will continue to be guided by the National Security Council advice on the way forward. The murder rate dropped by 42% in 2025. Thus far, in 2026, serious crimes have dropped by 30% compared to the same period last year.
A second 3 month of the state of emergency that began in March can be approved in the House of Representatives via the government's majority. The Office of the Attorney General said in a statement on Wednesday that the first extension of the SOE ends at midnight on June 17th, 2026. Jewel Brown, TV6 News.
We'll have more news when we return. Keep it here.